Johnny Carson was.
What if everything you thought you knew about Johnny Carson, the cool, unshakable titan of late-night television, was just an illusion? What if, behind that razor-sharp wit and that calm, commanding presence, beat the heart of a man who couldn't handle 5 women who didn't just flirt with him, but destroyed him live on national television? Forget the legends. Forget the polished retrospectives. The truth is far more human and far more humiliating. Because for all his power, poise, and prestige, Johnny Carson was never truly in control when certain women walked onto that iconic Tonight Show stage. He wasn't the hunter, he was the hunted. And America watched, laughing, gasping, sometimes cringing, as the so-called king of late night lost his crown not to a rival host or a ratings war, but to charm, confidence, and sheer feminine force. This isn't just nostalgia. This is the untold story of how 5 extraordinary women turned NBC Studio One into a battlefield of seduction and left Johnny Carson sweating, stammering, and utterly disarmed. In the golden age of American television, few names carried the weight of Johnny Carson. Every night at 11:30 p.m., as Doc Severinsen's band kicked into that legendary theme and Ed McMahon bellowed, "Here's Johnny!" millions of Americans dropped everything. They weren't just tuning in for jokes or celebrity gossip. They were tuning in to watch a master at work, a man who could command a room with a glance, defuse tension with a quip, and make even the most awkward guest feel like they belonged. But then, she walked in. Zsa Zsa Gabor wasn't just another Hollywood starlet, she was a phenomenon, a walking, talking embodiment of European glamour, old-world decadence, and unapologetic flirtation. With her honey-dripped Hungarian accent, diamond chokers that cost more than most people's houses, and a list of ex-husbands longer than the Tonight Show guest roster, Zsa Zsa didn't come to promote a film, she came to play. And Johnny? He was her favorite toy. Their chemistry wasn't romantic, it was combative, a verbal duel wrapped in silk and sequins. While Johnny played the polite, slightly bemused American gentleman, Zsa Zsa played the worldly seductress who treated men like vintage champagne, expensive, intoxicating, and best enjoyed before they went flat. Her weapon? Language. Specifically the English language, twisted, teased, and turned inside out, until every innocent phrase dripped with innuendo. Take the infamous cat incident. Whether it actually aired or lives only in the collective memory of boomers doesn't matter, because it felt true. The story goes like this. Zsa Zsa, draped in furs and holding a snow-white Persian cat, turned to Johnny with those heavily lined eyes and purred, "Would you like to pet my pussy?" The studio froze. Producers held their breath. Cameras didn't cut away. And Johnny the fastest mind in showbiz, didn't flinch. After a beat of silence long enough to qualify as psychological warfare, he deadpanned, "I'd love to, but you'll have to move that damn cat first." The audience erupted, not just in laughter, but in awe. He dodged the bullet, flipped the script, and turned vulgarity into high comedy. But let's be honest, he'd still been hit. That moment wasn't victory, it was survival. And Zsa Zsa knew it. She didn't stop there. She'd lean in, perfume wafting like a warning, and say things like, "You remind me of my 3rd husband, charming but too cheap to keep." Or, "Darling, does that suit have shoulder pads? Let me check." And before Johnny could protest, her fingers would be on his shoulders, testing the fabric while the audience howled. Johnny would tap his pencil, a nervous tick loyal fans recognized instantly, or glance helplessly at Ed McMahon like a drowning man looking for a life raft. "Ed, I think I'm being proposed to, or blackmailed, hard to tell." That was the magic of Zsa Zsa. She didn't need to strip or scream. She wielded words like scalpels, slicing through Johnny's armor with a smile. And in doing so, she taught America something revolutionary. A woman could be openly sexual, boldly forward, and still be classy, as long as she owned it with confidence. When she finally rose from the guest chair, Johnny would often pull out a handkerchief, wipe his brow, and exhale. "Whew, I feel like I just escaped death."
But the truth? He loved it, because for once, he wasn't the king. He was just a man, flustered, vulnerable, and thrillingly alive. If Zsa Zsa attacked with words, Raquel Welch waged war with presence. In the 1970s, Raquel Welch wasn't just famous, she was mythic. Her fur beaky poster from 1 million years BC wasn't just pinned on teenage boys' walls. It haunted the subconscious of every red-blooded, including Johnny Carson. But here's the twist. Raquel didn't want to be a sex symbol. She wanted to be taken seriously as an actress, a comedian, a feminist. And that's what made her appearances on The Tonight Show so deliciously ironic. Because no matter how passionately she spoke about method acting or women's rights, Johnny couldn't hear a word. Why? Because she kept leaning forward. Not provocatively, not intentionally, just naturally. And in those deep-cut gowns or skin-tight jumpsuits, that simple gesture created a crisis of attention. Watch any clip from their interviews. You'll see it. Johnny's eyes darting to the ceiling, fixating on a water glass, or staring blankly into the middle distance, all while Raquel talks earnestly about her latest dramatic role. The audience starts giggling. Johnny snaps back, startled, and gives that look, the one directly into the camera, eyebrow arched, lips tight, as if to say, you try sitting next to her and keeping your thoughts clean. His pencil would go into overdrive. Tap, 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 spin, 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 a metronome of male distress. Raquel knew, of course she did, but she never called him out. Instead, she leaned in more, laughed louder, touched his hand lightly when making a point. Once she asked, "Johnny, are you even listening to me?" And Johnny, ever the pro, fired back with self-deprecating grace. "I'm listening, Raquel. It's just my heart beats so loud I can barely hear you over it." Or the time she complained about the press only seeing her body. Johnny picked up a magazine with her photo, studied it intently, and said, "Well, I think they're wrong." He paused, squinted at the page. Wait, what was I going to say again?" The audience roared. Raquel threw her head back and laughed, a sound like bells in sin. That was her power. She didn't do anything, she just was, radiant, unattainable, and devastatingly aware of her effect. At the end of each interview, Johnny would stand to escort her off stage, hand lingering a second too long, forehead glistening, tie slightly askew. He wasn't just saying goodbye to a guest, he was recovering from a near-fatal encounter with beauty. Interviewing Raquel Welch wasn't hosting, it was endurance training, and Johnny, he failed every time, which is why we loved him for it. Raquel made Johnny sweat, Angie Dickinson made him sweat bullets for entirely different reasons. By the mid-1970s, Angie wasn't just a star, she was Sergeant Pepper Anderson, tough, sharp, and in charge. On Policewoman, she didn't wait for men to save her, she saved them. And when she stepped into Johnny's studio, she brought that same authority with her. Their dynamic wasn't flirtation, it was interrogation. While other guests answered Johnny's questions, Angie flipped the script. She'd lean forward, chin in hand, eyes locked on his, and asked, "So, Johnny, did you stay up late last night, doing something?" The studio would explode. Johnny would freeze, mouth open, pencil hovering mid-air, caught in a trap of implication. He'd glance at Ed like, "Back me up here," but Ed just grinned. Everyone knew Angie had the upper hand. And the rumors? Oh, they swirled for years. Were they dating? Had they dated? Neither confirmed nor denied. Instead, they turned speculation into performance art. Angie didn't wear revealing dresses. She wore power suits, crossed her legs with precision, and held eye contact like a challenge. She wasn't trying to seduce Johnny's body. She was after his secrets. She'd bring up his divorces, his bachelor habits, his late-night escapes, not with judgment, but with the teasing intimacy of someone who knew. And Johnny, he couldn't deflect. He couldn't joke his way out of it, because with Angie, the joke was on him. Once, when she joked, "You never call me," Johnny replied, voice low, almost tender, "Angie, I don't call because if you pick up, I'll never want to hang up." The audience didn't just applaud, they sighed, because it sounded less like a line and more like a confession. Angie Dickinson proved that the most dangerous woman isn't the one who shows skin, but the one who sees through you. And Johnny, for all his fame, was just another suspect in her crosshairs, willingly surrendering to custody. After Zsa Zsa's wit, Raquel's curves, and Angie's intelligence, you'd think Johnny was battle-hardened. Then Dolly Parton showed up, and the king of late night, he turned into a blushing, giggling mess. Dolly wasn't just beautiful, she was joyful. With her sky-high blonde wig, rhinestone-studded gowns, and that laugh like wind chimes in a summer storm, she didn't enter the studio, she lit it up. And her secret weapon? Honesty wrapped in humor. Johnny's problem was simple: where to look. He tried to maintain eye contact, but physics, fashion, and Dolly's legendary silhouette made it nearly impossible.